We'll talk
series.
about that. We'll talk about that.
Yeah. So and then we're going to Phoenix the 7th through the 10th. Because the media day is there 2 days, and then we have an open test. Mark Robinson told me to mention the Sebring test. Was that tomorrow or something or
Well,
whatever?
they're
This
testing.
week?
Yeah, I think they're testing down there now.
Tomorrow.
Today and tomorrow.
Yeah, so
Zach Beach is testing, and
4-day is doing it too.
hello, Andy. Hello, Andy.
Hey, sir.
I see you brought the lovely. How did that happen?
I worked hard for you on that one tonight.
Good.
10 seconds.
You're back again?
4, 3,
Bill said you left.
1. You're on.
Welcome to the newest version of the Autosportradio.com show. It's a 2018 version. We are live from McGilvery Speedway, 30th and High School in the beautiful town of Speedway, Indiana. A couple of things I need to mention to start off the program. The first two are not very happy, I might add. I want to send our condolences. Mike was just here. And Mike Smith and his family on the loss of their mother. Mary passed away on, of all times, Christmas Day. So we give them our best, and also want to mention that my good friend, a guy that I used to have a lot of fun ragging on and picking on and doing whatever I could do to make his life uncomfortable, Michael Pardee of VP Insurance. His mom and dad owned VP Insurance. He lost his life on December the 30th. So we want to say that that's not good. Hate to hear that. I want to remind you that that the daily specials are back at McGilvery's. It's on your table if you need to get a copy to take home with you. I'm sure they probably have one to give it to you. And if you're coming in on a Tuesday night, you want to make sure you call ahead of time so you don't lose the special that is on available. Also, this Saturday night, the 13th, is the night of the Chili Bowl. It will be shown here on the big screen. In fact, all the televisions, I do believe. And there will be a variety of chilies. One, I understand, is Ma Unser's recipe. That will be here, and all the fixings that go with it. So if you are interested in coming, you might want to mention to your waitress, that you're coming to reserve a table so that you can get in. It should be a good race. And, of course, our guest from a couple weeks ago, Dave Argerbright, will be on screen, so you get to see him. My first guest is a young man that I have hounded for years. He is a graduate of Bowling Green State University. He got a bachelor's degree in journalism. He worked for McDonald's and Burger King for a while until he got a job with the with the Indianapolis Star, where he only lasted 19 years.
20.
Oh, you did get the 20th this year?
I did put my 20 in.
Okay, he got his 20. It said 19 in the thing, but they lie.
20 and
And then he left there after covering the Colts for all that time and the Super Bowls and NCAA Final Four. Got a job with Sports Media Network, wrote for them for a couple of years, and took another sabbatical. And lo and behold, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway called, and he's been writing for them for the last few years. And one of the things that's gone on, a lot of people have emailed me and said, what happened to IndyCar? Are they on vacation? Because nothing much come out. And I said something to them about it. And they said, dummy, go to IndyCar.com. Oh, yeah, I never thought of that. I really didn't think of it. But it's there, so you want to know what's going on? Go there, you'll find out. And the guy that's writing the stories is my guest tonight. He is known throughout the motorsports world as Philip B., but to everybody else, he's just Phil B. Wilson.
Thank you. Thank you. It's nice to know that the 197 stories I post on IndyCar.com, unless they were not read by Don Kay.
After I realized
197 I posted, and Don's like, oh, really, Phil? I didn't know that.
Honest to God, I didn't, because I get all the PR anyway. So.
That's okay.
But
you're a rock star, so I wouldn't expect you to keep track of.
I'm at a loss.
Oh, come on.
When you went to Bowling Green State University and your degree in journalism, what did you have in mind? Did you want to get into motorsports, or do you want to cover sports? You wanted to do ladies' dress shows? What did you have in mind to do?
Well, the ladies were keeping me at bay even then. I was just never attractive enough to get a good one, you know.
Well, you're like me. You got a face for radio. That's my
I
problem.
did the barbarian thing. I figured if I ran around with a club and bonked one on the head and then dragged her by the hair, that would work. You know, didn't work. I wasn't fast enough. I was too fat.
What was your when you got the degree? What did you want to do? What was your aim?
Honestly, I grew up in. My dad lived in Danville, and so we listened to the radio broadcast of the 500 every
That's
May.
once a year.
And that's the itch. Dad thought Mario Andretti was the coolest guy on earth. So because we had a love-hate relationship, and who would I have to root for to piss him off? AJ Foyt, right? So screw you, Dad. I'm rooting for AJ, and you root for Mario. And then Mario's slowing on the backstretch. And Dad's like, oh, God.
Not again.
Shut up, son. Oh. So, but that was tradition, and we would make these little peanut, you know, those soft peanut candies thing. We'd make race cars out of them, right? With the toothpicks, and put the gumdrops on for wheels, and then the little checkered flag thing on the top, and you know, that was a cool deal, you know. And then we'd have a pool, a family pool, which it was only for a little bit of money. My dad didn't make a ton, but like if you had first car out, you got $5, you know. So if it was some loser or whatever, hey, first car, I just got $5, Don. This is great, you know. And of course, you wanted to finish the top three. That's where the real money was, like $25, $20, and $15. I think Dad put like the purse was like $50, I think. So, but that was it. I mean, and unfortunately, Dad died in '98, but before he died, I had already transitioned through college into my career as a sports writer, and even though covering the NFL and covering the NBA and Final Fours and all that, I've covered like 25 Indy 500s, and my dad brought me to two of them. I saw Rick Mears win, and then I saw Johnny Rutherford win. Rutherford was in the yellow Pennzoil Chaparral.
Yep.
And that's, I mean, like many of you, maybe for the first time, what stands out is going home that night, you put your head in the pillow and you still hear the cars in your ears because you listen to them for 3 hours go by, those big noisy suckers, you know. And I was stuck. It got me. So that got me, and then to be able to eventually work on the race, and then to have AJ Foyt swear at me every May. I mean, you know, I joke with I call AJ the old grizzly bear. That's my own little nickname for him. But I tell him, you know, May doesn't start until you swear at me. So when my fat ass walks in there and he says, what in the hell do you want? Well, what do you think? May begins for me. So, but I think of my dad all the time. I think my old man get a kick out of the fact that I'm rubbing elbows with AJ, and even in recent years, I got my brothers to meet him. My one brother in Sonoma at his winery thing, and my other brother here. And so you could say that even though I've covered a lot of other things, racing was always kind of, I piss Colts fans off all the time. I tell them my favorite time of year is May. And anybody who feels that strongly about the race, they know what I'm talking about.
So you went and got a degree in journalism.
Yeah, I did.
You wanted to be a sports
I
writer.
wanted to be a sports writer because I had a real bad childhood. My mom introduced me to men ranging from alcoholics to spousal abusive men to manic depressives to absolute nightmares. And as a kid, you know, obviously you're traumatized, but so I grew up with this rage, and I always wanted to fight back. And you learn at some point, especially if the railroad worker is 6'3" and 250 and you're only 12, and he's missing one finger and got another nub for a finger, that scares the hell out of you. So maybe you better just run out and find some other way to enjoy yourself other than trying to take on the big alcoholic. and sports was my release, and I got away from it through sports, and I wanted to be involved in sports, and I was going to be Mean Joe Green. I was going to be 6'5" and 275, and as I told Mean Joe years later when I got to meet him, I passed you on the weight, but I didn't get the height. So, but and my dad and mom were divorced at an early age, so I went through a lot, and sports became my way out. And as much as I love football, and I played it, and I played basketball, as much as I loved all that other stuff, I'm not just patronizing you guys. You know, when my dad brought me to those races, it stuck. And so to be able to write about it, I knew I wanted to write about sports. I didn't realize I'd end up writing about 25 Indy 500s, but every May I'm just like a kid, and I go crazy, and I write 2 or 3 stories a day, and I'm just happy to be there. That's my playground. When I walk into Gasoline Alley and someone says, "Hey, Phil B," and I feel like I'm home, and my wife knows, just you'll see me at the end of the month, baby. I love you to death. You know, you should be happy. It means I'm not going to attack you for 2.5 weeks. So, you know, I'm at the track.
Was there any hesitation when IMS contacted you and said, "How would you like to write for us?" Did you, well, let me think about it?
Well, I was working for Scout, this online website, for 2 years. I left the Star. I didn't like how the Star was treating some of my colleagues, buying them out, getting rid of the old, bringing in young new that didn't know anything. You know, you say, "You know who Howdy Bell is?" No, who the hell's Howdy Bell? Get out of here, right? Right, Howdy? Tell
Come
him.
to think of it, who is Howdy Bell?
You should know who Howdy Bell is, by God. If you don't know who Howdy Bell is, get the hell
No, wait
out
a
of
minute.
here.
Wait a minute. Who is Howdy Bell?
Oh. It's the first sign, you know, when the mind goes, right? This is he's one of the last great Americans, Howdy Bell. Right?
Really?
He is. Look at that. Hey, there you go. Hey, come on. Checks in the mail, right, buddy? Yeah, I'm getting paid. No, and I did it initially for the month of May for the Verizon IndyCar Series and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and I had fun just for May. And then the next year I did it, which was, a year or so ago, and they said, "How would you like to stay on the rest of the year and work for the series?" I said, "Sure, part-time." So it's kind of like drop me in wherever I went. Got to go to Road America, got to go to Mid-Ohio, got to go to Sonoma the last 2 years. And so they renewed my contract again, and then they just renewed it again in November for this year. So it'll be my 3rd year doing it. And no, I didn't hesitate. I mean, the Speedway pays well. They might not pay you forever, but they pay well while you're doing it. So, and come on, I'm still kind of fun. You're getting paid to interview AJ Foyt and get yelled at and cussed at. I mean, that's pretty cool, you know. "Oh, I have hurt feelings. Give me the check." You know, come on.
Who's the
You know?
most difficult? Have you run into do an interview and with a driver or a team owner, it was difficult to get anything out of him? Besides
yeah.
A.J. Watson?
No, there have been several. Yeah, there have been several. You know, Dario was not always dashing, congenial, approachable. You know, he could be standoffish or at least just difficult. And, you know, for whatever reason, we didn't. And then I got in trouble. And I'll tell this story because I want to entertain you guys.
Oh, boy.
And if you're Dario fans, it's okay because Dario and I are speaking now. But for about 10 years, we didn't. Okay? It's one of my favorite stories. When I've been teaching, because one of my other jobs, I've been teaching at IU and IUPUI journalism, and I tell this story and they get a kick out of it. We were at the track the month of May, and it was a rain day. You all been there when it's puddles and everything. And Dario is there with Ashley, and Ashley's walking her 2 dogs, and they're not on a leash. They're just walking right on the infield there where the hospitality row is, with all where motorhomes usually are for the teams, the hospitality things. And I don't know, I forget what kind of dogs they were, the little things, but
Mutts.
Huh?
They were mutts.
Yeah, whatever. They were some exotic breed, brown, whatever. Anyway, they weren't on leashes, okay? And I'm a diehard dog owner, and I've had labs. I actually got a lab puppy right now. And so I know you think the Speedway, you own it, but Dario hadn't won a 500 yet. and you're an actress here with him, so maybe you should keep your dog on a leash. You know, this isn't a kennel walking park. This is Indianapolis Motor Speedway. You know, I want to, next time he takes a dump, I want to take the big floppy hat and clean it up with it. Okay, that's what I really want to do. All right. I mean, it's good to get this out of my system now. I didn't say it to her at the time, but I thought it. Okay. Anyway, they're walking towards me and two other guys, and all of a sudden, there's only one dog there. And Dario looks around with that, and Ashley doesn't even break stride. She keeps walking. She says something to him, and she keeps going with the one dog that they've still had. And I said to Dario, I thought there were two. There usually is. You know? So I felt bad for him. I mean, you've just lost a dog at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. On a rain day, no less. Congratulations. Well, it has a happy ending for the dog. They found it back where, you know, where Penske's tent usually is in that
Yes.
first A1 slot or whatever in hospital, the bus there. They found the dog way back there 50 yards back. But I couldn't resist writing a blog. I was working for the Star, and so I wrote this blog about how there was this missing dog. And I said I almost felt sorry for Dario, but never feel sorry for the rich and famous. And I even researched the dogs, and I said I don't know which dog it was, whether it was Shug or Buttermilk, so I knew the raw names of the dogs. And I think it was probably the headline that pushed it over the top. Dog Days with Ashley Judd. There were people that were upset with me about that. I thought it was funny. And he was with Andretti's team then, and somebody with Andretti sent me a very nasty email, which if AJ had not been so mean to me for a while, I wouldn't have been prepared for that kind of treatment. But AJ toughened me up. Yeah, AJ's called me names, real nasty, vulgar names. You can't say to me. No, but actually the email was you questioned Dario's manhood in this story, in this blog. I didn't question anything. I told you they lost a dog, and he looked scared as hell, and I thought it was funny. And Ashley didn't seem to care. She kept walking. I mean, you want to feel sorry for Ashley, fine. If she were right here, I'd still tell the story. I've seen Ashley go like this to autograph seekers and put her hand up. She wasn't all that approachable. Now, the problem is Dario was ticked to me about that, and he wouldn't speak to me. And there were a couple times where I had to go see him after races, and he would go the other way. And it wasn't until this last year and a half where I worked for IndyCar, and they wanted me to talk to him, and he was actually nice. And once we had a good interview, it led to another good interview, and now I find him quite the gentleman. It doesn't hurt that he divorced Ashley a while ago either. I think there's a cause and effect there.
Howdy? Howdy. Are we disturbing you and Dr. Utzler?
No, we got our own program back here.
I know that.
Oh, he's got royalty there, right? Mark, how you doing, Mark?
I came just for you.
No,
Well,
you
thank you. It's nice of you.
didn't. No, you didn't. You're sitting there talking to Howdy, and that'll ruin your reputation.
There you go. Oh. I'm sure he didn't mean it the way it sounded.
Oh, I bet he did. Before we go any farther with this nonsense, I want to mention if there's anybody in the house, Howdy, if you would like to go to the 24-hour Daytona, also known as the Rolex 24, there's a gentleman sitting here, Dave Kester, who is going down there, has a ticket, is driving down, and if you have no other way back, fly, he said you could drive his car. He'll drag your car down, you can drive it back. So if anybody's interested in the Rolex 24, see Dave Kester, he's sitting right here in front of the jukebox, flapping
boy.
his arm in the breeze. He does have a ticket, so see him, and if you're interested in your listening or watching, send me an email, and I'll pass it on to Dave. He'll contact you. Now, you and Dario and AJ are now tight,
Yeah. We get along. We talk.
but you in fact, you did an article on Dr. Utzler about his
I did.
program and how long he'd been coming to the Speedway.
I
and all
did. That was
kind
one of the
nonsense.
toughest interviews ever because
Yeah, I
I
can
couldn't
imagine.
get the man to open up. He just wouldn't talk to me.
Well, he won't be quiet here, so I can't imagine you couldn't get him to
I
talk to you.
begged him. I said, "Well, I don't trust you. I heard what you did to Dario and Ashley."
Do you travel with now when there's tests or so on and so forth? Do you go with IndyCar? Occasion?
I thought when they hired me that I would go to every race and I would be there because, like, I'm a hired gun, right? And I have all this experience from the start. But in fact, they have other riders they use, so they pick and choose when they send me. Like, they're testing at Sebring.
Well,
Is that tomorrow?
today and tomorrow.
Today and tomorrow. And I'm obviously here because this is more important, being with Don. But, what?
No,
Okay.
Dr. Uchler laughed at that
I
comment.
heard-
Which
I heard
I know.
crickets.
I'll,
I heard
I'll
crickets.
speak with him.
Crickets, nothing but crickets
Oh,
out there. Yeah. But so they pick and choose when to send me somewhere. I'm going to go to Detroit next week for the auto show because we're supposed to talk to Roger Penske up there and Joseph Newgarden. Roger Penske.
Oh, yeah, I heard of him.
Yeah,
He's got-
Roger.
He's got a Chevy dealership here, so that's
Yeah, and
Honda.
Roger's been good to me. He's always been kind to me over the years. So, and that's kind of an influential guy. It's nice that I get along with him. Okay.
Yeah, but his Indianapolis native president would make sure that he talks to you,
Yes.
Penske. Tim Cindric would make certain you talk.
Oh yeah, and Tim, I have a long history with Tim as well. That's the cool thing. You think about all the people you've known for all these years, and so even though I don't go to every race, the ones they send me to, I drop right in, and it's the same cast of characters, maybe a different track. I'm going to go to Phoenix, I think, in February because they have the media day,
Yeah.
and then 2 days of testing there, and then they'll just pick and choose what races they send me to.
Are you going to get to go to the 500?
Oh, yeah,
Oh, okay.
I think I'll make it 25 or whatever years it is. And I always find a story or two that nobody else would probably find.
I
at the
got to
track.
tell you,
I
he's
love-
up
I
in the
love that.
media center, and they let me up there for some unknown reason. And he's like a kid. I'm telling you, he's bouncing up and down and
Yeah.
talking, waving to everybody, signing autographs. I never figured out why. Then I found out it was on the bottom of a check.
I had
realize that.
I mean, this is why I enjoy it so much, other than the actual race. You do that for so long, and then you have a little network of spies and informants, and the yellow shirts particularly will always tell me when they've got a great story for me. So every May I show up, and depending on what post I go to, someone will tell me about a story about this guy or that guy. And I got early into last May, the yellow shirts at the Gasoline Alley gate said, "Hey, you got to meet this buddy of ours, Ken, and he's got stage 4 cancer, colon cancer." And I said, "Okay." Excuse me. And this is like when John Andretti came out with his diagnosis and was public, and so the timing of it wasn't lost on me, the significance and heightening the awareness of the disease. And unfortunately, I've lost a cousin to colon cancer, so a little personal for me. My dad died of cancer. My grandpa died of cancer. I will do a story on somebody with cancer if they want me to, if they'll let me to. So my voice is getting dry. Sorry. So I went to meet Ken DeLion at the very south end of the pits. Ken had been at the track for almost 20 years or whatever. And sure enough, he was struggling. He didn't come until the second week because he's trying to keep his strength up from the treatments. He had it for 18 months. I knew from my doctor brother as well as my cousin's example that stage 4 life expectancy, about 10% make it 2 years. So I knew at 18 months he was, fortunate. Anyway, cut to the chase. While we were interviewing, it was one of the first times that I'd ever done this. I led the story with a joke. Ken said he refused to think of the negative. I'm going to live my life to the fullest to the last day. I'm not going to worry about what can happen. You spend your time worrying, you waste time. And he said, it's like the doc. Doc says you got 3 months to live. And I said, well, Doc, I can't pay you what I owe you in 3 months. The doc says, well, I'll give you another 3 months. And here's this man dying of cancer giving me that joke. How could I not use that in the story? That was my lead quote in the story. And then it got even better than that. And this is it's my highlight of my May. I'll never forget as long as I live. I've done so many stories over the years that I really, really enjoyed personally. He said, "Yeah, I really feel for John Andretti. I know what he's gonna be going through now that he's diagnosed. I'd love to meet him sometime." Oh, really? We went and came back and got him because we found out that John was at the track that day. And so Mike Kitchen and I came down and got Ken in a golf cart, took him over to the suites like north of the pagoda, and damned if those two didn't hit it off. Ken and John stand there talking about their chemo ports on their shoulders and how they hate this and hate that and cancer sucks and this, that, whatever. And they just laughing. I mean, I actually took a picture of Ken head like this laughing hard at John. And because John's cracking jokes. If you're an Andretti, you crack jokes. And John actually has a really good sense of humor. We always used to joke about how he liked to drive Michael crazy because he always thought Michael was too uptight. But John was the normal Andretti. So unfortunately, even though they met and they were buds and it was great, Ken passed away, I think maybe a month or two after. I was in touch with his wife, Debbie, and she had texted me and asked me if I could send her copies of the photos I took of him, you know, in the yellow shirt station, as well as that one of him, you know, laughing at John. And they used those as part of his funeral pictorial and all that. But, I mean, I'm sorry. I love the race. I'll never get over loving the race. But when you get a chance to do a story like that, send somebody off with something they'll never forget and give the family a memory. And it meant something to John, too. That's why you do what I do. That's why, and it doesn't matter what they pay you or not. That was a story that I got because of my yellow shirt friends. They made me look good, and I delivered the goods.
Who's more difficult to talk to? You find that the race car drivers are much easier to approach than some of the other professional athletes that you've dealt with?
You know, I know Danica's coming back, and there are probably a lot of Danica fans here. Danica's always a pain in my ass.
Yes.
I can't lie to you. She just was. She's like, I want you to treat me like every other driver. Well, then don't pose half nude in bathing suits and work your sex appeal for whatever advertising you can get. I mean, you want it both ways, and that's not right. I mean, she would get offended when we ask her about that stuff. She'd get mad. I saw her go off on people. So some people, I think, just didn't get it. But the nice thing is there's enough drivers now, they get it. I have to take advantage of every opportunity to promote this. Joseph Newgarden's always gotten it, even before he became champion. He was always fun to deal with. I can tell you how many times I interviewed him, he just cracked me up. I just did a phoner with James Hinchcliffe a couple weeks ago. These guys get it. Simon Pagenaud, I mean, I never really cared for France much growing up, and I've told him that. I thought, you know, those Frenchies, you just rolled over and let those guys walk right in your country. We saved you. Come on, put up a fight. Simon is hilarious, and yet he's very serious and focused. I've enjoyed Simon immensely. They all understand that we need to promote this as much as we can. We need to be full of life and personality, and they got some really good personalities in there. They really do. Even Sebastian Bourdais, we're at Sonoma, and I'm talking to him about the year that was or wasn't, and about hitting the wall. And he goes, well, it was my fault. My fault to hit the wall. And I said, well, why do you say that? I mean, the car, well, nobody else is in the car, were they? No? Okay. All right. Okay. I was kind of responsible for doing this, right? Yeah, you're right, Sebastian. You were. Yeah. Okay. I was just going to give you a little wiggle room. I mean, you know, but no. But they're just, you know, some of those guys are pretty darn refreshingly blunt, straightforward and all that. And I like the personalities. That's what I gravitate to. So most of those guys are pretty darn good. Even Will Power. Will Power is really funny. He's got this dry wit. Yeah. His brother's a comedian. But Will Power is just, I mean, he cracks me up. When I get him going, sometimes it's just, you know, It's fun stuff. I like the guys. They're fun.
Are you following Alexander Rossi and Connor Daly and their amazing race?
I watched a little bit of the show the other night where they threw these girls off the show for being a half second late. And I asked my wife, where are the race car drivers? I said they were on the first part, I think. So I didn't know, but I guess they did move on. And
Yeah, they finished fifth in the first night. When did they run again? When was it on again? Oh, it's on tomorrow night. It'll be on tomorrow. The second program? Yeah, okay.
Alexander's gotten better. I think the first year when he won the 500, there was a culture shock to being interviewed, and everybody wanted a piece of you. And he's more of a straightforward racer. He doesn't, but his personality's kind of come out over time. I'm glad I got to talk to him about where he's from. He loves skiing. He's an avid skier. Came from this town that says like one traffic light.
Yeah, Nevada, California.
Yes, exactly. And he's telling me the history. And so it took a while, but he's kind of loosened up a bit. And Connor's always been around it, so he's got a little more grasp of playing the media and having that savvy, But I hope they do well, but I missed their first part.
That's all right. I'll fill you in.
That's good.
It'll take about 5 minutes.
That's good.
But I think the thing that I found interesting, have found interesting about Alexander is coming from Formula One. I knew guys who sponsored cars and they never met the driver. They never went to they never did it.
Really?
And I think he was from that thing where you're to yourself.
Yeah.
And now he's come here and found out, holy smoke, people can get in the garage and actually shake my hand and take me for an autograph.
Yeah.
And I think he's accepted that. And, of course, it didn't help that he lived with Connor Daly, or Connor lived with him, and he lived with Hinchcliffe, too. So that had to
that was the house of ill repute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That had to loosen
I've heard
his underwear
stories
up a
about
little
that. Yeah, I've heard stories about that. Hinch would joke he needed Connor to have a good result, so maybe he'd move out, or something. Yeah.
bit. And Connor cleaned the pool while James was doing the Dancing with the Stars.
There you go. I think we all have this opinion of F1 based on the history here, but I got to admit, even I was surprised at not the buzz, but how Fernando Alonso really appreciated being here. He really, really handled his business, and he actually told people he enjoyed the interaction. I'm like, well, you need to go tell your F1 buds, because trying to talk to Schumacher or some of those other guys when they were here was like pulling teeth. You had to hold somebody for ransom or something to get him, and he came here and he actually thought he found that refreshing.
Well, you read the article talking about the Roar, 24 Roar, whatever they call their testing. He said he was amazed at the number of people with his T-shirts on that came to see him at Daytona.
Yeah, I mean,
he said he was thrilled.
And you got a crappy Honda car right now in F1. You're running 11th or 12th. You can come over here and be a star right away, and they'll love you for it.
Well,
come on, brother.
He might be around if he hurries up, because he's getting a little older. Was he 34, I think, something like
that? He
He
is, but that was clearly, clearly one of the highlights of the year, just to see. Not that he was just here, but that he ran well, and he got it. He respected it. He appreciated it. There's a lot of people that run this race, and I'm sorry, they don't get it. Right. They just don't. Yeah. I've had people tell me, I don't know what the big deal is. It's 4 turns, it's a big track. Yeah, it's an important race, but I've had them straight face. What's the big deal? You want to smack them. Yeah. Or I hope you smack the wall, and then you'll find out.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say that. You don't wish that on anybody. Well, maybe. I don't want you to die, okay? I just want you to I want your ego to be bruised in the incident, right?
What do you write about for the Speedway?
Lately I've been working on a series called Racing Roots, and they post these every now and then. They're Q&As with these drivers on their first memories of childhood. And it doesn't have to be racing. It could be anything. Scott Dixon's was a favorite, because Scott's parents ran a track in Australia, and so at 4 or 5, he would, after races, he'd look forward to going underneath the bleachers to try and find money. And Scott was scavenging. It harkens that old sophomoric book title, Under the Bleachers by Seymour Butts. forward by Scott Dixon, you know. But Dixie would tell me how he would, and if you found a 20 or whatever, that was a good scavenge. That was really good. And then he said he had to give a percentage to his parents, and he hated that. I was like, man, what a ripoff. I mean, if I had 30 or 40, I had to give a cut to my mom and dad. But some of these stories, I don't know where I'm going to go, but they're just straight back and forth, and that's what's fun. They're unpredictable, but what do you remember about this? What do you remember about that? You know, and they've been just kind of rolling them out every now and then. I've done about 14 or 15. I just got Hinch on the phone a couple weeks ago. But, you know, some of them. Simon Pagino had so many stories that we actually were going to break one off into a separate because he was telling me too much and the Q&A was like going to be War and Peace. But they're kind of fun reads, and they're just giving you a personal side of them as opposed to, oh, it was pushing, it was pulling, we got to do this, we got to do that, and, you know, race. I want to be more about who they are, not always about what they're doing, because everybody can see what they're doing. So it's kind of fun to get them to know that way.
Well, I'll tell you what, I have, since I woke up and realized that the stories that are going on, you're writing them, and they're on the net, and I don't, because I get all the PR from everybody, so I never thought about it. And all of a sudden, I talked to Kurt, and I said, you know, you guys got to tell people you're still around. He said, it's on the internet.
It's on the internet.
I forgot it. So I started.
But you'll live longer, though, the fact you haven't read my stuff.
Well, that's probably true. I've been thinking about
this has saved years on your life.
Yeah, probably true.
If you read all 197 stories right now, I'd have probably taken at least 5 years off. Like, God, this Philip B. Wilson, he still sucks. He couldn't write for the Star, and he still can't write. I don't know what the Speedway sees in this guy. He's just looking for a free lunch. Look at his belly, for Christ's sake. Come on. It's obvious. Right?
You're right.
Oh, Don. Oh, come on. Where are my girlfriends at? Come on. Stick up for me, right? Yeah?
Don't listen to Fluffy. She'll
No?
start doing this, start throwing food around.
I was outside walking in, and she smiled at me, and that was all I needed. That's it, right?
Bill's been trying to get her to smile at him all day. He said he hasn't
that what it was?
succeeded yet. So.
Is that what it was? Yeah.
Well, listen, I appreciate you taking the time. I'm sorry you're not down at Sebring at the test, that you had to come here instead. But
No, I love this. It's been a while. It's been too long.
I know, because you haven't been doing. Oh yeah, you have been working.
Yeah, I have
hard.
been. I've been underground. Yeah, and that internet website stuff.
That's fun.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good to read. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Don, and thank you guys. You know, we love the race, don't we?
So keep the stories coming, and as I said to everyone here, it was at IMS.com and IndyCar.
IMS.com and IndyCar.com. There are
Look
other
'em
people
up.
that write for them. It's not just my stuff. So there are like
I know.
three of us, that main writers.
I saw a story the other day, since I started looking, Mark Robinson had written.
Mark writes. Mark's my editor. We used to work at the Star together. I just called him. I called him today on the way to wherever I was going, and I said, hey, I'm going to be on Don Kay's show tonight. He goes, oh, no, don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't do it. Well, Mark, I did it before, and Don and we're kind of friends. I think he actually likes me, and so I don't want to disappoint him. What do I say on the show? And he said, well, you can talk about this, and I think we have a couple more driver announcements coming up. I said, well, who should I throw out there, a name or two? He says, well, I don't really know that. All I hear is rumors. I couldn't get him to give me the rumors.
Well, there was a story on Racer that Jack Hawksworth is going to possibly be in the car at
With
Dale Coyne.
Dale Coyne. That's what we were asking each other. Like, Coyne's got to announce a second driver in the next week or two. So I don't know who it would be, but I was wondering, and that's probably the rumor that he didn't want to tell me, but he did not want me to come here and spread rumor and innuendo and whatever, so I give you Ashley Judd and
There you go.
my
That
good
was
buddy
even-
Ken
That
DeLion
was even
and
fun. That was even funnier.
all that stuff, yeah. So
All right. Well, thanks for coming.
thank you,
Always
everybody.
enjoy it.
I
Don't
really
forget to
appreciate it.
read.
Thank you
One
very
of the better
much.
writers, Philip B. Our next guest is watching IU, and are they still winning? Oh, they are ahead. Gee whiz. Who are they playing? Whipslich University? Who are they playing? Oh, Penn State. Oh, okay. Come on up. This portion of the program is being brought to you by Sam Pierce Chevrolet in Daleville. You got to come to the country to see why the best prices, in fact, are in the country. It's Sam Pierce Chevrolet, and you'll also see why Sam is always rated at the top of customer satisfaction. When he sells you a car, he doesn't stand behind you, he stands alongside you. You just take I-69 north to exit 34 and go east 1 mile, and you won't miss him. He's on the right. It's a big place. You'll love it. And if you're looking for an exciting ride, you got to go to the Indy Racing Experience. It's the home of the most exciting race car ride in America, the two-seater. You can call at 317-243-7171, ask for Shonda, or go online, find a date that works for you, and in the promo, or tell them SJ1, you get a 50% discount. So take advantage of it. It is a fabulous ride. The SVRA is about ready to kick off the season. And they've added 2 new divisions. They got a post-1920 race cars they will be showing, and they'll be here. And they have a B sedan series now started up that will run regionally, but it will also be here along with Trans Am and their other stuff. So check out svra.com and subscribe to the Vintage Racing Quarterly. You'll love it. It's a great magazine, well worth the time to read. They got great stories. Want to remind you that Stitches 2 is available. For anything you need embroidered or you need anything done, you contact, what's-her-face? I forgot, who owns? Oh, yeah, I'm listening to them back there. The Hall of Famers talking louder than we are, so I forgot what I was going to say. You want to call Fran at Stitches 2 to get anything you need embroidered. Her number is 317-271-3444. And if it's time for more insurance on your home or your car, or if you have a commercial property, call VP Insurance. Talk to Mike Pardee. The number is 317-248-0070. There's nobody better. And if you think I'm kidding, check him out. Get the price from him, and you'll find you get better coverage for less money. They're located at 5004 West 16th Street. That's VP Insurance, 317-248-0070. My next guest is a gentleman of distinguished credentials. He's a graduate of IU and with a Bachelor of Science. How in the world he got into the science of motorsports, I'm not sure. We're going to find out. He is a director of driver development for the Indy Light Series. He works for IndyCar, but coordinates everything with the Mazda Road to Indy program. He's a good guy and just came from a meeting with the boss, find out what's going on. Please welcome Mr. Jason Penix. You know, you guys have got to be pleased with what the series has done, starting with now I think they're into the carts and they build it up from there. But the guys that have come from Indy Lights into IndyCar and have done very well.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. Really, I guess if you look over history, meaning in the last, 7 years since we've had this program, it's been really good. Hinchcliffe, Newgarden, those kinds of guys have certainly made it, and they're big names now. Spencer Pigot. You get a little bit more recent now. Zach Veach is up there. Clayman DeMello has been testing, it sounds like. He's trying to break into it. So there's no shortage of guys getting their chance coming out of the Mazda Road to Indy, and that's exciting for us.
And the fact that they learn as they step up. Dan and his people have put the cars together, so as you move up, you learn better car. Now when you get to the Indy Light Series, those cars are very similar to Indy cars, so it's not a big...
Yeah, it seems to be. The feedback from the guys that have driven the new Aero kit with the Indy car seem like it's a little bit more in the driver's hands, and that's what we did with the Indy Lights car when we made the transition in 2015. So we're hopeful that it'll bring that gap even closer together, and guys can make the transition as easy as possible. It's certainly never easy, but...
Now, you just came back from getting a suntan in Florida, meeting with Mr. Anderson and Michelle. What's new and exciting coming out of them for the 2018 season?
We were talking mostly about the MX-5 Cup cars. They're the full-bodied Mazda cars, coupes. They're with us 4 times a year on IndyCar weekends. They race a couple other times on their own. But IndyCar took on that series, sanctioning that series last year, and Anderson Promotion operates that series. So we were primarily talking about that, but we certainly always cover the Mazda Road to Indy as well. So some good discussion, some exciting things for the season coming up here. The MX-5 guys are with us another 4 times here in 2018 with on IndyCar weekends. I don't know if you guys have seen that series run, but it's phenomenal. The racing's unbelievable. They can draft. They can run 2 and 3 wide. They can't really get away from each other, so it's typically one of the best shows on the weekend is watching those guys run.
Do they run ovals or strictly a road course?
It's all road courses. Last year we took them to Toronto on the streets. That wasn't a great idea. As you can imagine, some over-anxious guys in the 25 or so of those cars on a street course with concrete walls, right around them. Didn't go real well, so we're not going to do that next year, or this year in 2018.
Did you mention to Mr. Anderson that I'm still wanting to get him on the program?
I tell him, I said, you haven't made it in the sport until you've been on the Don Kay show. So I'm trying to sell him on it.
Yeah, he said, I don't want to do that, I can tell you that. Is the Indy Lights program still an IndyCar product or program, or does Anderson Promotions have it, own it?
Well, IndyCar owns Indy Lights. Anderson Promotion just operates it. So it's a little bit of a unique setup, but IndyCar has had Indy Lights since Roger Bailey was involved years ago, and it's not something we want to give up. It's important to us. We just wanted somebody that could put a little more energy behind it, and Dan was that guy. And I think we would all agree he's done a fantastic job with it.
And his 2 PR people, primarily Diane Swintel, who I deal with and pester quite frequently, have really done a nice job in getting the word on what they're doing, and Steve Wiedig covers it and writes about it. So it's getting publicity. What I don't like is, on a race weekend when Indy cars are running at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you got to get up at 9 o'clock to watch the Mazda Road to Indy program, and then you got to go back and tailgate, and you get crocked, and you don't see the IndyCar race.
Well, it's tough for sure. The difficult thing is the promoter pays IndyCar to bring the show to town, and then everything else they can do, whether it's selling suites or sponsorships or putting support series on weekends, is their way to make up money against that. And so they'll jam-pack the weekends, right? So you'll get 5, 6, sometimes 7 series on a weekend. And to make that all fit, sometimes you have to give on what time you're racing.
Well, I can see putting the drifters early in the morning, but they got to get the Mazda Road to Indy program, because that's what's building IndyCar, the drivers coming from there. If I remember right, last year there was 20-some drivers in the field at the Speedway that came from Indy Lights at one time. I mean, some of them a few years ago, but are refugees from that series.
Yeah, absolutely. If you look back historically and you count guys like Dixon and Castro Neves that have an Indy Lights background, it's up around 80% of the field. If you get a little more recent than that, I think it's somewhere around 35 to 40%, which is still a healthy number considering we've only had this Mazda Road Indy thing for about 8 years now.
The thing that intrigues me is the number of foreign drivers that come here because they hear about it, they realize what it is, what it does. It's a good place to learn, and some of them are coming here at 16, 17 years old and starting in the USF 2000 and working their way up. They find that it's easier to get into this program and move up than it is to go to Formula One and get beat up in GP 2 and 3.
Yeah, we get a lot of interest from all around the world. The exciting thing, there's 2 things. One, obviously we offer a scholarship with the Mazda Road to Indy program at every level. So there's no other racing series in the world that does that. And I think that attracts a lot of guys to come here from everywhere. The second thing is we take drivers as young as 14 years old in USF 2000. So you can really come straight from karts into USF 2000 and do it, from an age standpoint. From a skill standpoint, it's possible to do that too. So we'll take them young, and by the time you come in when you're 14, by the time you're 18, 19 years old, you could be getting ready for an IndyCar career.
Do you have, initially when the IndyCar series started and before that the Indy Racing League where you started with, they had driver coaches. Does the Mazda program have driver coaches that are available for the young kids to talk to?
Yeah, Joel Miller, that was racing with Mazda in their sports car program, their prototype program. He's been our driver coach with the Mazda Road Indy now for the last few years. He's also helped us in race control, and Joel's a phenomenal guy, phenomenal talent behind the wheel, and has done a great job. And anytime these kids, whether it's an F2000 kid, a Pro Mazda kid, has a question, Joel's there for them. And he's close enough in age. He's done it in the last 5 years or so, open wheel wise, where he can kind of relate to what they're talking about. And so he's done a tremendous job for us. And in addition to that, Johnny Unser is our Pro Mazda race director. So he's a great guy that you can pull a lot of experience from as well.
And his daughter isn't doing too bad either. Lonnie's
she's
moving up pretty good. Does he have in mind bringing her into the program?
I don't know. I mean, I think she's been racing some Spec Miata stuff, if I'm not mistaken, and we talked a little bit about MX-5 if that made sense for her. So I think she's a little bit more on the closed wheel side right now, but she's an unser, right? So inevitably she's going to want to try it at some point.
I hope so. She's a nice gal. I had her here one night, and Johnny posts stuff every once in a while, and of course I respond to it. Can't let him slide. You got to get after him.
Not at all, and he is a fantastic guy. And really one of my favorite people in the sport. Just a great guy.
When you graduated from IU, Bachelor of Science, how in the world did you get into motorsports? Was that the first job? Was either that or flip burgers at Burger King?
Well, I guess, yeah. At IU, the sports marketing and management program was there, and I knew I wanted to be in sports. And I grew up a lifelong fan of motorsports, specifically IndyCar racing. Got to know Wanda Devon, Al Unser Jr.'s mother, and she was a huge help in my career in getting me started and helped pair me with the guys at USAC. And I did my first internship there and got to know a lot of people, and that just kind of snowballed from there. It led to internships at IndyCar and eventually on full-time, and I've been there all 12 years of my working life.
12 years.
I'm getting old.
So are my socks. The trouble is they're more than 12 years old and I wear them. That's the only problem. And I don't stitch them up anymore. When they get too holey, I throw them out. Do you go to all of the events? What on a race weekend, what are you doing? I mean, I usually see you hiding. But what is your job?
Well, that's only when you come around I hide.
I know.
Yeah. No, really my main job is specifically in the Indy Lights paddock as working with the teams, and I'm kind of that conduit and work with the teams every day, whether it's here locally or at the racetrack. So it's really servicing them, whatever they need. Sometimes I'll deal with the drivers, help out in race control as much as possible, both at the Mazda Road Indy and IndyCar levels. So really it's quite a few different things, but primarily day to day I'm focused on making sure this Indy Lights thing works.
I don't know if you've noticed this, but there's a guy down in Speedway who built a shop behind the Daredevil Brewery or whatever it is that's only been here about 15 years. And he has taken the Indy Lights and now moving into IndyCar by storm. I mean, this guy has really put together a program, to me, a brilliant operator. He understands it. He knows it. He started from the bottom up himself, so he understands what it takes. He's done a heck of a job, and I think he works with the drivers so that when they're ready to move, he helps them move. He wants to see that. That's his goal. Now he's decided maybe instead of them going driving an IndyCar for somebody else, he ought to drive for me.
Yeah. Ricardo Juncos, right? That's who you're talking about.
Well, sure.
Yeah. Now, Ricardo, like you touched on, an amazing story. He came here not that long ago with
about 13 or 14.
Yeah, a few bucks in his pocket and barely spoke English and made it work. I think he started out with karting and has kind of worked his way up from there and got his own team started and has grown that. When I first met him, he was running Connor Daly and what was Star Mazda, now Pro Mazda.
And they won about everything.
Yeah, that was a dominant year for them. So he's a success story, no doubt about it. We've seen him grow, and that's a big part of this whole Road to Indy thing. It's not just about drivers, Don. You know, it's about growing teams, mechanics, engineers. I mean, there's so many examples of that now. You talk to IndyCar teams, they want good people, and they're starting to find their good people in the Mazda Road Indy and pulling them up.
And the thing I find interesting is when they're running, albeit 9 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock, a lot of team owners are over there watching, paying attention to who's doing what. When they're practicing, they're out watching, seeing what the crew guys do and how they're operating and the engineers and so forth. So it's a good program. What I'd like to see is more IndyCar teams field a car, either in Lights or Pro Mazda.
Wouldn't we all? Yeah. These are the things that keep me up at night.
Oh, I thought it was a baby crying.
No.
Oh,
no.
Okay, it's not. What is your goal? I'm sure you'd like to move up to something, but what? What would you like to do next?
I mean, I'm really
stay in IndyCar. I'm
yeah,
sure.
for sure. I mean, I'm really happy with the Mazda Road Indy program and Indy Lights, and I don't feel like my work there is done yet by any means. There's certainly room for growth. Looking forward, just natural aspirations. I hope someday I can be the next Jay Fry, right? I can be the president of competition and operations and have a shot at running that side of the business for us.
So you wouldn't mind the guys yelling at you. What the hell did you do that
I'm getting
for?
a pretty good training right now, so.
So now that you know, I know that you know the teams and team owners and stuff, I'm going to start bugging you. Because I like to talk to the team owners, see what their goals are, what they do, and I enjoy talking to them. As much as I like a guy that's a great guest is Anthony Martin.
Yeah.
I've had him here three times, and he'll stick around for 3 hours and talk if you want to. Is he back in the country yet, or is he still down?
I don't know if he's back here or not. He came here and tested, I believe, with Andretti at the Chris Griffiths test in October in Indy Lights, and he's a super talent for sure. Unfortunately, the realistic side of our sport is it comes down to dollars and cents, right?
That's what I've heard.
I know he's been working really hard, so I'm hopeful that we'll see him this year at some point.
I'll have to get a hold of him and find out what he's up to. It seemed to me that a couple of the events, the Road to Indy program ran other tracks on the weekends when IndyCar was running. They weren't together. Is that on the program again this year? Will the Mazda Road to Indy program will run elsewhere?
I don't think so. I think we're with IndyCar 100% of the time. The USF 2000 and Pro Mazda guys are going to run Lucas Oil Raceway on carb night, so 2 nights before the 500. I know traditionally that's been a night before the 500 thing, but it's 2 nights before the 500. So while they're not with us technically at the Speedway, they're with us on the weekend. Yeah,
they're in town. That's neat. To me personally, I'm impressed with what Mazda's done, with what Cooper Tires has done, because they provided them with some pretty darn good tires. So that they know that's not an issue when they're racing. They only go 100 miles, but sometimes tires don't last that long.
Yeah, no, Cooper's a phenomenal partner, and Mazda's a phenomenal partner. Both groups put so much. It's not just about dollars, right? There's plenty of that, don't get me wrong. But they put so much energy and effort into it as well. There's not a race where you don't see John Doonan from Mazda or Chris Pantani from Cooper in the paddock, visible, walking around, getting to know the teams and drivers, finding out what they can do to help grow the sport. And so it takes guys like those, as we all know, that to really grow this thing and make it what it needs to be.
Well, I think it's kind of neat that Mazda gives you a scholarship to be able to move up the first 3, but when you get to the Indy Lights, you win that, you got enough money for three events, I believe.
Yeah, we guarantee 3 races, which include the 500, and so you get a prize valued at $1 million, and it's worked out well so far. Nobody's had less than what they were promised. Everybody's had at least 3 races, and some of these guys have turned it into full season deals.
Right.
So,
well, that's kind of interesting. I enjoy talking to the guys. I want the fans to know who they are, so as they move up, the fans will oh yeah, I remember him. He was at the Pro Mazda. He's in Indy Lights now, and that's what I like to do. And I appreciate you taking the time, having suffered getting back from Florida, having to try and catch up and relax and maybe shovel some ice off your driveway or something. I don't know what you had to do.
Yeah, it was tough.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to come here, and we look forward to, I'll harass you again, but you'll hear from me from time to time, because team owners, I want to talk to them. If you know them and can put a word in so they don't say, who?
Sounds great. We'll do our best to make that happen for you.
Well, keep an eye out. The Mazda Road to Indy program starts the same time as the Indy cars in March down in St. Petersburg, so watch them, and we'll have some of their drivers, and you'll get to know who they are. And they're, all the ones I've met have all been good guys, so it's fun to see. I want to thank you for your time, Mr. Jason Penix.
Thank you, Don. Appreciate it.
Now, we will be here next week if Mother Nature cooperates. I don't know. I'm working with a couple of potential guests, but as I keep telling you every week, go to autosportradio.com website, and it says Autosport Shows. Click on when I've got guests, they'll appear there. And then if you're on my email list, I will send you an email to remind you who's coming, and we look forward to seeing you. Did everybody have a good holiday weekend? Mark, Doctor, did you? I'm sorry to interrupt you two gentlemen. Did you have a good holiday, both of you?
It was wonderful.
How about Howdy? Does he stay awake long enough?
We're celebrating Epiphany now with you.
Oh boy, yeah, I see. I can hear that. Yes. You've been using my name, but I think it's in vain. I'm not sure.
You got it right.
Did everybody make a a resolution for New Year's? If you did anybody break it yet besides me? Oh, yeah, Fluffy did, no doubt about that. All right, well, I'm glad everybody's made it through the holiday season and enjoy the warmth today and tomorrow because they tell us on Friday, look out, or Saturday. So until next week, thanks for everybody. Again, this is the first of the 2018 programs. We'll be back here next week. Until then, Mrs. Don Kay saying good night. And don't forget the Chili Bowl Saturday night here, a variety of different chilies and all the fixins. If you need a table, tell your waitress or call here. The number is 317-290-1331. Call, make a reservation. Want to see you here Saturday night. Till next week, good night.
Good night.